Today I'm out here in my garage working on my 1963 Ford 2000 tractor with a 4-cylinder gasoline engine. I just replaced the generator warning light on my column instrument cluster, and when the tractor's running it's staying illuminated. The old bulb was burned out for some time. I think I've had this charging issue for a while now. So I'm going to go through some troubleshooting tests to figure out what the problem is. This tractor is reverse polarity, meaning that it has a positive ground. Positive terminal goes to a ground on the frame, and the negative terminal goes to the starter solenoid. A couple of personal protective items I'm going to be using is a pair of safety glasses. I wear prescription glasses, and these are ANSI approved and OSHA approved. Then I have a pair of work latex gloves just to have an extra layer of protection on my hands, and it also comes in handy when you're dealing with any electrical systems. It kind of puts some insulation between your skin and the system. But always, whenever you're touching electrical components, taking wires loose and stuff, make sure you have the battery disconnected so you don't create an arc and shock yourself, or there's a possibility you can start a fire. Anytime you've disconnected the battery or the generator on a 6-volt setup on a reverse polarity tractor, is you want to polarize the voltage regulator. To do this on this specific one, a voltage regulator has 3 terminals. Let's see if I can get a shot in here. See it right there. On mine, the first one is the armature, the second one's field, the third one's battery. On this type right here, what you want to do is take your field wire, loosen up that terminal, slide the wire out. Then you want to just take it over and just give it a quick little ground onto the battery terminal. Wires are kind of short. Just want to touch it on there for a few seconds, and what that'll do, that'll send electrical current through the voltage regulator and polarize it. If you're having any charging issues on your tractor, it's also a good idea to try this first because it's very simple and easy to do. On some of the earlier 6-volt setups, as far as these Ford tractors, like on the 8Ns, the voltage regulators are different, where you'll have a armature terminal and a battery terminal side by side, and on them setups you'll take a jumper wire and just give it a quick short on the battery and armature terminal. But on the later 6-volt setups, you just want to take the field wire out and short it onto the battery terminal. First thing we're going to do is verify the problem. I have my voltmeter right here. Digital one's always the best kind, but if you have one analog ones, it will work just fine too. We want to take our leads and test the battery voltage with a full charge on it, with the engine off before we crank anything up. With a full charge with the engine off, we are reading 6.4 volts. We want to remember that. And then we want to start the engine and then check the voltage to see what we got. If the generator's charging at all, we should see the voltage increase. If it's not charging, we should see it decrease due to the fact that the ignition system on the tractor is going to draw power from the battery. The tractor running at a good RPM. You can see that the generator warning light is illuminated. Over here to our voltmeter, you can see that our voltage on our battery is currently reading 6.2 volts. We saw a decrease of 0.2 of a volt, which means that this system is drawing drain off the battery and our generator is not charging. If after I've done all my tests and the light's staying on the tractor, but when I do my running test and my off test voltage on the battery, and it's showing that I'm getting a charge when it's running to the battery, but the light's still staying illuminated, then there's a possibility that you may have a fault in the wiring to that light. And then you could either track down, rewire the wires to that light, or you could just ignore it altogether, because after doing the multimeter test on the battery, you would know whether it's charging or not. First thing I want to do is check all my connections on the generator and on the voltage regulator. Make sure they're tight, free of corrosion. If you have any corrosion on any of your connections, just take them loose. You can take a little small wire brush like this, clean them real good, and whenever I put them back together, I always use dielectric grease, and that'll keep any moisture and corrosion from building up in the future. Next thing I'm going to do is a motoring test on the generator. First thing you want to do is loosen the generator up. You want to slide this fan belt off. Make sure it's free. It's able to turn freely. I'm going to take a jumper wire. First thing I'm going to do is run a jumper wire a good ground from the frame. Now I'm going to ground the field terminal on the generator. My generator has 3 terminals on it. The one on the back right here is the armature. It's the terminal that charges the battery. It has 2 on the bottom down here. One right here closest to me. It has one a little further back. My generator has a G stamped into it for the ground right above the terminal, and then the field one has an F stamped into it. If you're not quite sure which one's which, you can consult a shop manual and look at a wiring diagram. Sometimes they're rusted up and you can't see the letters written on it. So if you're not quite sure, always double check it before you go any further. Now I got the red positive ground jumper wire hooked from the field terminal on the generator to a good ground on the tractor frame. Now I'll take my wire, I got it clipped onto the wire coming off the negative terminal to the solenoid. That's my hot wire. I'm going to touch it to this armature stud terminal on the back of the generator. And if I have a good generator, the pulley up here should spin. Touching it, I don't know if you could hear that. It made a little click sound, but the pulley never spins. I'm going to touch it again one more time. The pulley's not spinning. So that means my generator is bad. The bushings and the bearings and everything's probably just worn out in it. I'm either going to have to get this one rebuilt or just go ahead and buy a completely brand new generator. If your pulley spins but you still suspect that you may have a charging issue from the generator, you can take your multimeter and take your positive wire, make a good ground somewhere on the engine or on the frame of the tractor, and then take your negative lead from your multimeter and touch it on the back of the armature terminal on the generator while the tractor is running. And if the generator is charging, you should get a reading of around 6.5 to 7 volts. If you're still not getting a reading, then you know your generator's bad. If your generator passes both them tests, the next thing you want to look into is the wiring itself. If the wiring's old, you have any cracks or breaks in the insulation on the wires, you may have a break in the continuity on it. What you want to do is take all your wires loose, take your multimeter, set it on ohms, and check the continuity from the generator end going back up to the voltage regulator. You want a shop manual with a wiring diagram, track down each one of them wires. And one last thing that could also be a problem is your voltage regulator. A lot of times they get old and the insides of them just starts breaking down and it goes bad. It's not a bad idea to go ahead and replace it if you know it's old anyways, because it's going to wear out eventually. So I've came to the conclusion that my generator is bad. There isn't anyone local that still rebuilds generators and alternators in my area anymore. So I've tracked down one at the local Ford tractor dealership. and I'm going to buy one here soon. I hope this video helps you if you're having issues. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.